All right, yo, what up, everybody? Got something real special treat for you today. You see the man sitting on the screen next to me is my dear friend, the homie, one of the smartest men that cover the sport of football, professional, collegiate level, FCS level, whatever level, Division two. You know what I'm saying? It's my man, CFL. You know what I'm saying? It's my man, Emory Hunt. Emory, what's going on with you, good brother?
Cooling, man, Corey, man. I was thumbing through some old clips of ours from a show we used to do back in the day, man. Some fun times, bro. Glad to be on the show.
Definitely. You know what I'm saying? And anytime it's time to talk football, I got to holler at my man, E. The conversation, I'll be honest with you, could get a little spicy, but obviously, why wouldn't it? You know what I'm saying? Because we're getting ready, two passionate football fans getting ready to talk about the season. I got a couple of things I want to get into, kind of break down the offseason and stuff like that. But I do want to address some of the things that's been said about your boy in the group chat. You know what I'm saying? Now, let's start at the quarterback position because that's where we start at when it comes to football. Dak Prescott, notorious interception thrower. 25 interceptions in his last 28 starts, I believe is the number. NFL Films guy, Greg Cosell said, before the injury, Dak Prescott was a playmaker. After the injury, Dak Prescott became a ball distributor. Is that true?
That's fairly true, and that's one of the things that I always kind of thought about Dak early in his career. He used to run a lot more. He used to scramble a lot more, pick up those cheap yards with his legs. After the injury, understandably so, we started to see him not do it as much, which is a hidden part of his game. But as you get older, I can understand, the recovery time is different. The body just acts different. And yeah, he does a fantastic job of just distributing the football to whoever's open. He doesn't have a main guy, so to speak. And I feel like last year's interceptions, if you watch all of those picks, half of those are clearly on the receiver.
That's nobody else gets that type of love that turns the ball over that much than Dak Prescott. Why is Dak Prescott? See, he's protected, E. When you're the quarterback, you're the quarterback. The interception's on you.
Yeah, true, but they also, not every interception is the same. You know what I'm saying? And so when you look at Dak is still a top 8 quarterback in my opinion.
Okay.
If there's a reason why he took over for Tony Romo and never gave the job back, he is someone that plays well above the X's and O's, has that dog in him, especially when the game gets on the line. You could see him just move the team down the field and have that killer instinct. That's something that he has had since he got in the league, and that's why he's been able to take that job away and sustain his job. And I feel like now that they've added even more so complete weapons around him in terms of wide receiver, tight end, I'm still leery on it, even though they brought in some options. Running back is going to be the biggest key. They don't have Ezekiel Elliott. They don't really have a guy that you can say is the bell cow. Maybe they're going to try to get a bunch of guys involved. But as far as the passing game, you're never out of a game with Dak Prescott. You're never out of a game with this passing game. And to credit Jerry Jones, they will always keep a talented roster. That's why the Cowboys get talked about so much, because they are always on paper talented. And I think they do have the quarterback that can get it done. I saw a graphic where someone tried to mislead the public by putting his picture next to Kirk Cousins. They're not the same.
No.
Kirk Cousins is not even the same zip code, stratosphere, country. League is Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott is up here. Kirk Cousins is what I like to say is the bare minimum for your quarterback. You shouldn't be worse than Kirk Cousins. He's what every pro quarterback should be at worst.
So quarterback 32 basically essentially is what you're saying.
Quarterback 15. Quarterback 15, 16.
All right. So you mentioned the running game. You don't look at Tony Pollard as a bell cow back?
Everybody loves the idea of the backup back until the backup back gets actually out there and
100%.
beats the starter. So for me, we hadn't seen Tony Pollard carry the load ever. Going back to Memphis, he didn't have to because they had like 5 backs there. They split up the carries. When he got into the league, they split up the carries. And so hopefully that means more love for Deuce Vaughn, more love for someone else that's on the roster. Because if you're asking your guy that was a spot guy to be the full-time guy, then you're putting him at a disadvantageous situation. You know what I'm saying? So him being part of a committee is his best. That's getting the best out of Tony Pollard.
All right. So, daytime sports talk debate wars going on right now. Skip Bayless and his crew and Stephen A. and Shannon and all of that stuff. So the other night I was watching a show with a guy who needs to be elevated, in my opinion. I was watching that show on Fox with Shorty Taylor, right?
Joy Taylor, yeah.
Joy Taylor. I'm a big fan of Joy Taylor. Emmanuel Acho, not so much. TJ Houshmandzadeh, and then I think the cat that played for the Packers and LaShawn McCoy. And they were talking about, Jones. And they were talking about Justin Fields, right? And I'm not a big Justin Fields guy, E. So this is the thing. This is the conversation. So they were talking about how Fields this year can take the step that Jalen Hurts took last year. And LaShawn McCoy, who I think is fantastic, said, "Oh, no. Justin Fields threw for 2,200 yards last year." And then Houshmandzadeh goes, "I think he could throw for 3,000 yards and run for 100. That's Lamar Jackson MVP numbers. E, this is a team that lost 8 straight games to end the season last year. And people think Justin Fields is going to not only take this team to the playoffs, but be an MVP candidate.
Well, MVP candidate in this stacked NFL is kind of tough. But if you go back and just look at, it's funny how people pick and choose what they want to focus on, because he had 17 touchdowns, 11 picks, over 1,000 NFL rushing yards.
That is true.
And everybody's saying he has to take the next step. Meanwhile, out here in Jersey, there's a dude that threw 15 touchdown passes, 5 picks, 700 yards rushing in his fourth year, and everybody's saying, "Oh, he arrived. He's the great."
Now, I agree with you that Daniel Jones overpaid.
Now hold on. But people also say that the Bears, he needs to take the next step. No one ever brought up this entire offseason how this defense was giving up those games they had won last year. How many shootouts Chicago was in last year, pun intended? How many shootouts Chicago was in last season, in that game where you're scoring 35 points, but you're giving up 38 to 40.
They were a big over team last year.
Exactly. So the thing is, think about the Dallas game. They were going back and forth till the defense decided, we give up, and Dallas just kept putting it on. So my thing is, how about we put that smoke on the Bears pass rush, which still has question marks. I love their secondary. They got pieces back there, guys that can turn the ball over. They bring in Tremaine Edmonds from Buffalo, but he's someone that he can't rush the passer. So we have to see if this defense is up to par. Making the playoffs, I think that's a little bit too far-fetched. He would have to be Superman in order for them to make the playoffs, and because you got the Detroit Lions, you got a better Packers team, you have what you have in those two teams out the NFC East, in the Cowboys and the Eagles. You have the 49ers and Seahawks in the West. The South is only going to be a one-team, bid league. So there's a lot he has to overcome to get to the playoffs, but Justin Fields is fine. The defense has to catch up.
All right. Because, they say I talk about Justin Fields. Last year, I was probably the last person in on Hurts. So Corey don't like black quarterbacks. My thing is, if I see it, I got to say it, right? And Trey Lance, the people at, the 49ers did him wrong. No, they didn't. The 49ers watched him practice. Kyle Shanahan did not move up to draft Justin Fields. I believe one of your quotes. You know how the talking heads can get into the war room? I think the talking heads got into the war room. I think the pick was supposed to be Mac Jones. Not to say that Mac Jones is dynamic. He still has his struggles, thinks he's got to improve clearly. But the idea that Trey Lance was done wrong in San Francisco, I think that's false.
We have to start putting smoke on whether or not they know what they want at quarterback, because it's not this Trey Lance thing. I mean, he had one full season as a starter in the Alabama of the FCS at North Dakota State.
No doubt.
He didn't really have to throw much because they was running down everybody's throat. So he didn't have the sample size for people to say, yeah, that's the guy, right? I feel like a lot of people got caught up in the Carson Wentz, North Dakota State, here's the next guy, and they kind of just latched that onto him. But let's rewind a little bit. This is the same group of guys that traded back when they had a number 2 pick, traded back with Chicago, let Chicago take Trubisky, and they bypassed Deshaun Watson, bypassed Patrick Mahomes to take Solomon Thomas, who's on his 5th team now. So do we really? And then has it come out later on, maybe a couple years later, that they weren't even looking at Mahomes or Watson because they were banking on Kirk Cousins. So you stick with Brock Purdy, who really should have thrown 40 interceptions last year. You bypass the greatest quarterback probably in our lifetime in Patrick Mahomes physically. Deshaun Watson is an elite player.
Yeah.
you pass on Justin Fields and the words were always going to get Mac Jones. But if it's between Mac Jones and Trey Lance, you still passed on Justin Fields. So I'm not even willing to give them that grace of them knowing what they're looking at the quarterback position.
That makes sense. You got to know who you are.
I agree with you, though. Here's what happened with Trey Lance. And it's funny because I just had this conversation with my barber at the barbershop where they didn't do him wrong. Think about it from this perspective. We invested all this in you, and every time you get out there, you get hurt. So we can't depend on you, so we kind of have to move on, right? It's not like you went out there, played a full season, because they committed to him last year. They named him the starter. Remember all the stories of Jimmy G throwing off by himself
on the sideline,
on the side. So Trey Lance got the start, and it was going to ride the whole season with him. But then he gets hurt again. So it's almost like when Sam Darnold was in the Jets. Like every time he started to make a little progress, he gets hurt. Now you have to hit reset. And so you can't depend on that. You got to keep it moving. And Purdy did enough to where, okay, well, at least he's out there. Let's just continue to build this thing on. And that's what happened. The problem is they chose Darnold over Lance. So again, what are you looking at that position?
Exactly. Okay, so I can buy that, right? I think that's a very good point. As a matter of fact, more than just buy it, like, because you got to know who you are, you got to know what you're looking for, right? I think when they gave Lance the job last year, they went to the preseason. The preseason game was in Houston, and then the next day it was like, oh, Garoppolo's coming back, and I was like, oh, they saw something that they don't like, and then obviously Lance gets hurt, and nobody mentions that 49er offensive line got Trey Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Brock Purdy injured last year.
Hey, man, listen, where there's smoke, there's fire. But all I hear is that the O-line is elite. It just need quarterback play. Like, that's like what you just brought up is me bringing up the Bears defense. How nobody talks about that O-line getting all these quarterbacks hurt.
Yep, and it's the truth. The draft is kind of one of your specialties. It was a play. No, before I get to the draft, Deshaun Watson. You knew it was going to be Russ last year, but Deshaun Watson's Russ statistically looked like Zach Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
What's going to happen this year?
They're going to go off. I think they are the second best team in that division. I had them going to the playoffs. Baltimore number 1, Deshaun and the Browns number 2, and the Bengals are number 3. I think the Bengals take the step back. The Bengals tend to start slow, and they can't afford to start slow in this division where you face Baltimore and Cleveland. I think you open up against Cleveland
in the first month.
So you start out last year, they were 2-4. You do 2-4 this year in this stacked AFC. It's going to be an uphill battle. Now, again, I don't think the Bengals will win less than 10 games. I think they can get 10 wins. But in the AFC, 10 wins may be what keeps you out of the playoffs, right?
Yep.
I do like the Browns because they have great additions at wide receiver. They have very good tight end depth. Their offensive line is very good. They have the best running back in the division and arguably in the NFL.
Yep.
Their defense got better with the pass rush up front. That's where they struggled last year in terms of stopping the run. They got better up front within the front 7. Their secondary is solid. I think the Browns, with Deshaun Watson and how he looked throwing the ball this preseason, that's a team that no one has talked enough about. So I like them to get over 10 wins. I think they're over-unders like 9.5. Definitely they're getting over that. And I feel like they'll be that 5th or 6th seed in the playoffs.
That's interesting. I was going to get into that loaded AFC and get some of your thoughts on there. But I can scratch the Browns off my list because you gave me your feelings on the Browns already. I thought this was a 1-quarterback draft. I think C.J. Stroud was fantastic versus Georgia. Other than that, maybe it's me. Maybe I really don't like Ohio State quarterbacks, but I thought he was very good versus Georgia, and that kind of raised me to look at him like, okay, this guy can do it. Anthony Richardson, I thought probably was a year away, but I like his landing spot, and I think he's going to be successful this season. But I think Bryce Young was by far and away, in my opinion, he was the guy. With that being said, this preseason, I'm looking at Frank Reich, and I'm like, please don't fuck this up. You know what I'm saying? Because I think Frank Reich don't know what he's doing, E. And I think Carolina could be a playoff team. They got to get this guy Burns in, but they're good in the trade. See, they've drafted well. They haven't fixed the quarterback, but now is Frank Reich the right guy to fix the quarterback?
I think so, and they have drafted well. They are a very good team on paper, and so for me, this draft class, quarterback wise, was like the 2017 class where I had Watson, Mahomes, and Deshaun Kaiser all graded the same as my stack at the top. Any one of those guys you could make a case for. This year, I had Richardson, Bryce Young, and C.J. Stroud with the same grade in that order, but with the same grade. If you like Bryce or you like Stroud, you won't hear a complaint out of me because I thought all three were really good players for all different reasons, and I do like all three specific landing spots for each. So I think all three will be successful. So you hope he gets it right because they have a solid offensive line. They got good weapons at tight end, at receiver. They can run the ball. Their defense, I think, will lead from the front. Obviously, you get Burns in there. But they're super athletic on defense. They're athletic and they're fast. So they can cause a lot of problems. And the defense can help bring this team along until the offense gets up to speed. But I feel like Frank Reich can be the guy. He is going to be the guy to help turn this thing around. And I just hope that Bryce Young can get back to because obviously we didn't see enough of him in the preseason to do it. When you get that pressure, be that escape artist like Russell Wilson was, coming out of Wisconsin, where he was able to buy time until the offensive line got right until maybe a second or third year. But that's what Bryce Young has to be until they really solidify up front and really have a run game they can lean on. Because right now they have good backs, but I don't know if they have the run game to lean on just yet.
Yeah, I think last year when Alabama and Texas played, I think that was the best I've seen Bryce Young. He won that game for them last year on the road out there in Austin. So he gets to get a chance to get his NFL career started. I want to touch on some young quarterbacks right quick. There is 9 now with whatever's going on in Arizona. 9 first-time week 1 starters this year. I think Jordan Love is ready.
I believe so too. And it's funny because I've been talking about this all season on CBS Sports HQ was everyone is expecting them. I think their over-under was like 7.5. Like they're clearly going over this. I think they win the division. I think
they win the division too.
Because here's the thing: everybody loves this. This is why I'm always throwing shots at folks, and not really throwing shots at people, just kind of reminding people. I'm holding up a mirror. I'm just kind of reminding people of their hypocrisy, right? Because they'll sit there and say, "Well, so and so needs to sit behind a veteran and learn from a veteran, learn from an established quarterback." And then when that happens,
why did he have to sit so long?
Right? or it's like, oh well, we don't know. We got Jordan Love. Wait. You just said is sitting behind somebody is the best thing. He sat behind a Hall of Famer, and now you question whether he's ready to play. And here's the thing: there's evidence of him showing progress. His first start against Kansas City, he didn't do well. Then they threw him in short notice against Philly. Boom, 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 touchdown. And so we saw you don't think.
And the joint practices this year too. The other teams were saying that he looks good.
And here's the thing: one thing about quarterbacks like Jordan Love, and that are what I'm getting at. They have that innate dog in them.
Yeah.
So you don't think they want to get out there and show you that they heard all the chirping. They heard, you know what I'm saying? Like that's why they couldn't. All of that won't show up in the stat sheet. It won't show up in the scout report. You got to know it when you see it. And I see that dog in Jordan Love. So they got two great backs. They got a very good offensive line.
Dylan. And now I think addition by subtraction. I think when you get Rodgers off the team, now the team belongs to LaFleur.
Bingo. And
when Rodgers was on the team, it was Rodgers' team.
And he's been the same offense going into his 4th year.
Yeah.
So he knows this offense is tailor-made for him. There's not that albatross hanging over the team anymore. And the guys that are now starting at receiver, he worked with exclusively when they were on the second team. Yep. So he already has that natural chemistry. I think people overthought the loss of Rodgers, and they don't understand like the depth that's on this team and the talent that's on this team and the benefit that Jordan Love had by sitting and growing with the guys that are now starters. So they should hit the ground running.
Kenny Pickett. I think Kenny Pickett is ready. You took a pause right there.
Oh, I didn't know I was supposed to go because
Hall of Fame head coach.
It's funny because
we're Pittsburgh Steelers black and gold. It feels like success.
When people bring up Justin Fields, they bring up, oh well, look at his A dot outside the hash down the sideline. They ignore the 17 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. They ignore the 1,100 yards rushing, NFL yards rushing. He completed 60-something%. Yeah, but it could have been 68. That really they moved the goalpost, right? But for Kenny Pickett, no one brings up 7 touchdowns, 9 picks, and he started like how many games? A bunch of games, if not the whole season. He started
He
like
might have started 12. He may have
15.
started
It
13.
started 12 games, 7 touchdowns and 9 picks in 2023.
Okay.
Also,
So
how many
7.
games he got? And nobody brings this up, and you don't want to wish this on anybody, but you kind of have to worry about him taking shots, man. He missed 2 games last year with concussions, right?
Yeah, I didn't know he missed 2 games with concussions, but that is interesting right there. That what I would say, I'm the type of cat that believes that wins is a quarterback stat. Now, by the same token, you can say, well, Dak Prescott is 61-36. You can't really get better than that. Kenny Pickett down the stretch last year, 7-2.
That's fine, but let's look at all the games he started. You can look at he got better toward the end, but did he really get better, or did teams kind of
get better?
Exactly, and it's not taking things away, because if you rank this division, he's the 4th best quarterback. He's 4th, right? Burrow, Watson, Jackson. So it's a tough uphill climb, but what helps him out, they got 2 good backs. The offensive line should be better. The run game should be better. They got excellent receivers. They got depth at tight end. And to your point, Mike Tomlin coaching up that defense, never had a losing season. So he could still be the liability, and they still finish 9-8. You know what I'm saying? And so I can see that, but I also want people to realize, like, he is the liability on offense until proven otherwise. That's the big weak link. And a lot of these passes that he doesn't really have the gas on the arm, which is fine. You could win with anticipation. We'll see if that ticks up this year. 2nd year in the offense, behind a better offensive line. Him coming off play action, him having that dog out there consistently now at wide receiver and George Pickens. So statistically, he's going to be better. And he's going to be better because he's going to, play the whole season, right? In the 2nd year of the off, same case I made for Jordan Love, I can make for Kenny Pickett. But here's the other part of it. Kenny Pickett, up until his last year in college, was a 17-10 type guy, touchdown interception ratio. The last year, 31 and I think 6 or something like that. Insane. And last year, 7 touchdowns, 9 picks. So was that last year the anomaly in a grand
scheme of things?
You know what I'm saying? Is he more of a 24-12 guy at the NFL level, which is about that Kirk Cousins type average?
If he's 24-12, he's Kirk Cousins.
You know what I'm saying? Which is not bad, but I just feel like people are starting to put him in that top 10.
Yeah, he's not there yet, right. But I think people are optimistic on improvement from Pickett. What about Sam Howell?
I like Howell. Howell's a good athlete. Howell's paired with a very good OC and Eric Bieniemy. They have, I would say, 3rd best receiving options in the division, right? I think they have a better offensive setup than the Giants. Giants have a better running back room. And that's why it's funny, because when you watch Washington and the Giants, they kind of are the same team, different coats of paint. Very good defensive line, very good linebackers, very good secondary. Quarterback is the question mark for both teams, because we don't know how. We know Giants fans don't know know Daniel Jones. They think they have someone up here, but they really have something that's, you know what I'm saying? Washington has better receivers. Giants have better running backs. Offensive line, I'll lean Giants. I say Giants got a better offensive line set up. But Howell can be that difference maker that can help them overcome, the Giants. I feel like because of his ability to throw the ball at the intermediate level of the field, I think he's excellent there. A deep ball is still hit or miss. Same with Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones thrives in the short to intermediate level of the field, which is what you need to do to have success to win. But I feel like Howell can elevate the passing game because of the weapons he has on the outside, more so than Daniel Jones. So if Saquon Barkley doesn't have 200 yards of total offense, Giants won't win, and that's going to be the biggest issue. So I see Washington finishing 3rd in that NFC East. Them and the Giants might even have the same record. They could both be 8-9 or both be 7-10.
I think both. I think the Commanders are a playoff team this year. I think the Giants just miss it, but I think it's going to come down between those 2 teams. How that 6, 7, and 8, the team that's going to be out of it, shake up in the NFC. A timeline right quick. Jonathan Taylor shows up OTAs, contract and the issue. Worry about that when it's time to worry about that. the running backs don't get contracts, and this is near and dear to your heart. The running backs don't get contracts. Josh Jacobs, Tony Pollard, Saquon Barkley, no deals. They get on a Zoom call. They get on social media and talk about it. Dan Barkley signs the same deal, except he gets $2 million up front, $900,000 incentives that he's never reached before in his career. Any bank in the country would have gave Saquon Barkley a $2 million loan. Josh Jacobs sitting in the parking lot waiting. The deal is better than the deal that Saquon Barkley got, the one he turned down. That's reported. That's rumored. And then you have Tony Pollard playing on the tag this year. Then Jonathan Taylor gets a new agent, and all hell breaks loose. So are the running backs being mistreated, or is this collectively bargained agreement that's really just going to pay the dudes that catch passes?
Blame analytics and those people that started that running backs don't matter noise like years ago.
Yeah.
Because they're now permeated through the fans, and fans start to, I don't know why fans take the side of the owner.
Oh, they always do. That's so weird.
You know what I'm saying? And so now people see these dudes as disposable, as if there's not a difference between Saquon Barkley and me. Like there's a difference, a significant difference. So you pay superstars, you pay game breakers. They are game breakers. You know what I'm saying? And so, and they are specific to each team. Yes, you probably don't pay Tony Pollard what you would pay Saquon, what you would pay Derrick Henry, what you would pay Nick Chubb, because those three guys,
those are elite running backs,
and they mean something different to each team, you know. And so there's obviously a sliding scale. No one talks about the quarterback position. Stop paying everybody like I blame Kirk Cousins for that, because now you're paying everybody like they're top 10 when you could really help your cap out by stop overpaying these mediocre quarterbacks.
Daniel Jones.
Bingo. So nobody brings that up, right? So my thing is, with the running back position, I feel like the owners love it. They love when people talk down on players and bring down their value. And now it's easier to pay them less because people say, well, yeah, that's a good deal. Meanwhile, you got a tight end getting paid more than a running back. And how often are we talking about when they show the graphics of coming up this week on Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football, you never see a damn tight end. And it's the quarterbacks, it's a running back, it's a receiver, it's maybe the top sack artist. You never see, TJ Hawkinson and a Minnesota Vikings.
No. You may see Travis Kelce, but Travis Kelce should be paid like a wide receiver. Travis Kelce and has done the Chiefs favor by allowing them to pay him like a tight end when Travis Kelce really is a wide receiver. And you mentioned, wait a minute. We're talking about some of these players and their different positions, but the running backs that catch, it seems like they're the ones that's going to get paid. And, running backs get a lot of their money early in their career. But Barkley specifically, the yards per catch is under 6 now. To me, that's problematic. You don't see anything with that? Or you look at the
That's the offense and the quarterback.
I was going to say that's the offense.
I can't help if you throwing check downs all the time, and I just happen to be the outlet.
Yeah.
But what's funny is that the running back that all the fantasy community and the analytics community love was out here crying for a contract, and nobody was there to defend him and help him out. Austin Eckler. He thought since he could be buddy with everybody and do a fantasy football podcast that they're going to help boost him up. And what happened? They left him out to dry too. And
like a 6th-round draft pick.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And he didn't have, and it was all about different leverage. Like at the end of the day, his leverage is not the same because you want more when they went out and drafted a Quentin Johnson. They got 2 other elite wide receivers and they invest in the tight end. They haven't shown that they invest in the running back position.
Yep.
Saquon was the offense, right? So I think he caught 70% of Daniel Jones's completions in his career. So
that's wild.
That's insane, right? That guy deserves to get paid like Derrick Henry because he means that to that offense. But for Austin Eckler, and here's the thing too, I got to dispel this myth because people always talk about, can he catch the ball in the backfield? They act like these running backs, even Christian McCaffrey, they act like these dudes be going down the field, running post corners, but these dudes catch nothing but screen swings, flares, flashes.
Christian McCaffrey averaged like 10 yards a catch. That's a first down.
Bro, is not.
But elite wide receivers average 17 yards a catch. Yeah,
we're talking about depth of target, right?
Yeah.
So he could average 10 yards a catch, but he's probably catching a 5-yard pass and make. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it works. It's not like these dudes are lined up in the slot and you see them running dig routes. No, they're catching back specific routes, right? And I think that's where, but again, those that have played the position kind of understand that.
Get
but
a better idea of that.
Yeah. Right. But then unfortunately, the game has been too many people in the huddle, man. So I feel bad for the running backs. Hopefully they get it together and people start seeing that this used to be this was the Tiffany position of football.
Yeah.
And it still kind of is. When people want to say, man, who the tailback is, who the running back is, that still carries some significance, man.
So listen, I think the Raiders, for example, Hunter Renfrow may make more money than Josh Jacobs. So that's really like what it boils down to. When you go salary by salary on some of these teams, like Corey Davis was making a ton of money and he can't even crack the field. Kenny Galladay, you know what I'm saying? So I see what you're saying on that. Okay, all right. Get you out of here on this, but I think this is the most fascinating story that nobody's talking about yet, but that people are going to be talking about soon. Caleb Williams, right? If say the Arizona Cardinals get the first pick of the draft, I can see Caleb Williams pulling an Eli Manning. I think he's that type of talent to where he can say, I'm not going to play for them. I'll go back to school. Don't draft me. I won't show up. I'm not going to play for them. I think Caleb Williams is looking at a big picture and like the Rams. That's where it's at. It's the NFC because the AFC is loaded. It's LA. It's a major market. I already play out there in Southern California. Roger Goodell ain't going to have a problem with it because they want LA to be successful. I think Caleb Williams tries to get himself to a legacy franchise or a coastal team.
Let's lean into that even more so. So let's say the Houston Texans don't have a great season, right? And the Cardinals are the worst team. So now you potentially have the number 1 and number 2 pick.
The Texans have their pick?
The Cardinals have the Texans pick.
Cardinals have the Texans pick.
Because remember, the Texans traded back up to get Will Anderson.
That's right.
So let's look at it like this.
And they're starting with Clayton Tune.
you got the number 1 and number 2 pick, right? You know, you kind of have an idea if Caleb Williams may not want to be there. And this is all speculation. So if you're the Cardinals, how much do you like Kyler Murray? And the biggest thing about this team that everybody, they don't have talent. There's a lack of talent. Okay, cool. We got the number 1 and number 2 overall pick. How about we call up the Rams or call up some other team? We got Boardwalk and Park Place. We can get a king's ransom for the number 1 pick. We can get a king's ransom for the number 2 overall pick.
Yeah.
And build this team up with young vets and also have a bevy of draft picks if you don't want to take Caleb Williams, right? So they still have options because we talk. It's funny how the same people that big up Kyler Murray now treating him like he trash.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying?
Threw him out the
window. Right? So let's say Kyler Murray is still Kyler Murray and comes back and they like, hey, all right, we're gonna build with you. We're gonna look for a Ricky Williams trade. We're gonna look for some other bizarre Herschel Walker type trade with this number 1 or number 2 pick, depending on which defensive player is there, or whatever other skill. We can still take, Marvin Harrison Jr. with one of these top 2 picks. With the other pick, we can go ahead on and give the Rams Caleb Williams because we already have our franchise guy. So there's a lot of ways they could spin it. We know the Rams don't care about draft picks. So they could literally get all their picks.
They were, I think that's why they were a team that would do it. I wanted to bring this up. Let's say the Chicago Bears get the first pick of the draft.
They're gonna get the top pass rusher.
So you think they would leave Williams on the board? Bears.
Justin Fields is the bird in the hand words 2 in the bush. When you look at 1,000 NFL rushing yards and gives them a chance to win every Sunday, is Justin Fields is not the Bears' problem. The Bears don't have a legitimate threat coming. You talk about a team that has gotten rid of Robert Quinn, Khalil Mack.
Yep.
Who else they got rid of out there? Oh, Roquan Smith.
Yeah.
And Justin Fields the problem. So y'all let 3 elite talents walk out the door.
Yeah.
So I think that's where the Bears. How about this? How about the Giants get the number 1 pick?
I feel like every team in the NFC besides Philadelphia needs to have the conversation.
You know what I'm saying? So nobody brings
the Giants should definitely. If the Giants get the number 1 pick, They
They'll take
gotta
Drake.
take
They'll
him.
take Drake May.
That would be. He close to Duke. He playing North Carolina. Oh man, always a good time, my brother. You know what I'm saying? Uh,
No.
the Buffalo Bills, I saw BetMGM have the highest handle to be the Super Bowl champions. I think the Buffalo Bills have a culture issue with Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. I think it's problematic. I got the Bills not even making the playoffs this year.
Oh wow! Like I had them winning the division. I like their two deep. They're strong on both sides of the ball. Two deep is there, and Josh Allen gives them a chance to win. But in crunch time, that's where he has kind of came up short in the playoffs. As much as they talk about Lamar Jackson and all these other players like Josh Allen, you know what I'm saying? Like they talk about that drive, but let's forget they was down in that game too. You know what I'm saying? Because Josh Allen wasn't playing well. They talk about that drive like that was like 3 years ago.
I think Lamar Jackson gets to the AFC Championship game this year. I think he wins Super Bowl this year, to be honest with you. But
I think we see an all-bird Super Bowl. We see Baltimore and Philly. But if you say you want to see Dallas, I've always said Dallas is always right there because they're super talented. If you told me Seattle is right there. They got better.
I was going to say, people say that the NFC is a top 3. I think the NFC is a top 4, with 4 being Seattle.
I love Seattle.
I like Geno Smith so much. And Smith and Jigba, to that. Last time Smith and Jigba really played, he was 12 for 350 and 3 touchdowns.
And
That's insane.
He's your third option on a team that has Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf.
Yeah. I think Seattle's legit. I think they win that division outright this year. I think they're a better team than the 49ers. So
they are. And, I have this argument all the time where folks are believing that 49ers are the clear-cut favorite. Like, wait a minute, man. And they talk about Seattle's fall. Seattle was starting 2 rookie tackles that are now second-year players, veterans, and they had a lot of injuries down the stretch when they played San Francisco. But what happened in the playoff game? First series, what they do, go deep down the field. San Francisco still has questions at corner. They're better at safety. San Francisco, Hufanga, they're fantastic at safety, but corner they still have a question mark. And offensively, it's funny how people are ready to discard Kyler Murray, saying Geno Smith was a fluke. Jalen Hurts this past year was a fluke, but they're all in on Brock Purdy and his 8 starts with his 48 dropped interceptions. They're all in on him. Like
the opposite of Dak Prescott. His interceptions get caught.
Right.
Brock Purdy interceptions get dropped.
That's why I say what I say in the spring and summer, and I go silent. At the end of the day, it's all we get to watch it play out in front, then have people have that selective amnesia, or you try to go back and find tweets and they've already deleted them. So that's when you know that you got him.
No doubt about it. That's the homie Emory Hunt. If Emory Hunt tells you it is Christmas time, what are you supposed to start doing?
Wrapping presents.
There you go, right there. You heard it from the man himself. For Emory Hunt, it's Corey Parson, the fantasy executive. We out.